Hey guys, Justin here again from Quiver Financial, here to talk to you about one of the more popular questions we've had this year, and that is, what should I do with my 401k when work changes?
As you mentioned, Justin, it's been one of the most popular questions that we've had all year long. What should I do with my 401k when I change jobs, when I leave my job, when I retire? We purposely designed this so you could narrow down the options that you have with your 401k down to 4 simple options. And what Justin and I are going to do is we're going to encourage you to pick one of those options that allows you to accomplish 2 main things. 1, pick the option that gives you the most access to information. What that means is, what's the account value? How's the account performing? Where is it invested? What are your options if you want to change the investment mix? So that's what we mean by access to information. And then the second thing that you really want to achieve is getting resources and tools that help you make wiser decisions for your retirement savings in the future. Retirement savings happens over a long period of time, so the more tools and resources that you can have, or sometimes what we call life hacks towards retirement, that can help you achieve those goals sooner and faster, that's what we're here for. We're here to make your financial life easy. With that being said, Justin, let's get into those 4 options and discuss what we can do here. Ready for that?
Let's get started.
Let's get started. All right, so the first option is this. It's the take it option. Let's say you're in a circumstance where you're going through a job change and finances are a little tight. We understand that, and if that's the circumstances, you can always take what we call a distribution. A distribution is just a fancy way of saying withdrawal. And when you take a distribution or withdrawal, there's a few things that you're going to have to think about. But at the end of the day, if you need the money, by all means, you can take it, right, Justin?
Absolutely. Are you going to incur a tax consequence with something like that?
Well, that's the thing that you have to understand is that when you do a withdrawal from a retirement account, most likely there's going to be some type of taxable event. So let's take it from the basics. Let's say you're going to take a $1,000 withdrawal out of your 401k. And let's say you're in a 20% tax bracket, which is a pretty popular tax bracket. If you happen to live in a state like California, like Justin and I do, then you're going to have a state tax, in this case, 8%. So you add those together and you've got 28% could be potential taxes for withdrawal out of your 401k. So out of that $1,000, you might see the first $280 go to Uncle Sam. That's if you're over the age of 59 and a half. If you happen to be under 59 and a half, the IRS is going to ding you with a 10% early withdrawal fee. So that's another $100 on that $1,000 withdrawal. So it's safe to assume that for every $1,000 that you're going to withdraw out of your 401k, that there's a good likelihood that you're going to have a tax bill of anywhere from $280, maybe even as high as $480 for every $1,000 that you take.
Man, that sounds really expensive, or could be, and potentially.
Yeah, it is.
So, okay, we've got through, that first option. If you don't need the money, and you got some different things going on, what other options do you have out there?
Well, so let's say that you don't need the money. Then the other option is that you can do a rollover. And everybody has 2 rollover options. And the first one that we'll discuss is a rollover to what we call an IRA. And an IRA is an individual retirement account. These were designed specifically for this purpose. You have a 401k, you've left the company. Now, what do you do with the money? Well, you can do a tax-free rollover. It's a rollover from the 401k to an IRA. It has 0 tax consequences if it's done correctly, right? So you don't have any tax ramifications. And then once you're in the IRA, you've got a lot of choices from there. You can either manage the account yourself, which means pick your own investments, or you can go out and hire somebody like Justin or myself to help you manage the account and help you achieve your goals. And we find that the rollover to an IRA tends to give people the most flexibility for the future.
So you mentioned 2 rollover options. Now, is the rollover option good for any situation?
Well, so this is where, individual choices, right? So we typically see people who are maybe a little bit closer to retirement with larger 401ks take the rollover option to an IRA, or if you don't have another job lined up necessarily, and you might spend a little bit of time unemployed, roll over to an IRA is a very viable option as well.
You brought up a great point with the job. So what happens if I'm, just got hired on at a new position and they have a 401k package or a, benefit package for me?
Sure, yeah. So you're a desired employee, right? Yeah. So you leave one company, you got another company. It's like the monkey bars. You get to go from one to the next pretty seamlessly. Well, if that's the case and the new company has a 401k plan, that's a good one that you feel comfortable with, and realize you want to go back to the goal of those two things: access to information, and then resources that help you make good decisions. Well, if the new company you're going to has a 401k that has those types of things that are available for you and you're comfortable with it, sure, by all means, you may be able to take your old plan, roll it over into the new plan, and essentially consolidate your retirement accounts.
So we've gone through three of them. We've got the withdraw, potential tax consequence. We got the roll it over into an IRA where you can manage it yourself or hire an advisor like us or somebody else, or if you get hired onto a new position. So we've gone through three. What would be the fourth that is out there?
So the fourth is what I think is really the most controversial of the options, because it really kind of shows where our intentions are, and everything in life is really about where you focus your intentions. So it raises the question of, hey, if you're leaving your job, you're not going to work there anymore, why would you leave the money that you worked so hard for with the old 401k? And there are circumstances where that might make sense. So one of those may be a situation where you've worked at the same employer for a long time, they've had the same 401k, you're very familiar with logging in and getting access to information and managing the account, and sometimes 401ks will have these very rare stable value funds that you really can't get anywhere else. So if that's the circumstance, hey, you're real familiar with it, you're confident in the interface, you have a fund you can't get anywhere else, well, then that's a good intention, right? Then you're leaving it there with the intention that, hey, I've got all the resources that I need to be successful. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to leave it behind because, one, you don't know what to do next, or you're afraid of making a mistake, because there's tons of 401ks out there, and every day we do these rollovers. So there's nothing to be afraid of if you do it with the right guidance. It takes 10, 15 minutes to roll a 401k into an IRA.